Good morning. Welcome to the King's Report for Wednesday, September 6th, 2017, 8th year of Chungi, 7th month and the 16th day. We're the day before the anniversary of our father's cosmic Songhwa and the second anniversary of Foundation Day. And I'm Tim Elder, sitting in for the second king of Cheongguk, Hyungjin Moon, and I'm here with Mr. Greg Knoll.
Good morning, Tim.
Businessman. And are you a large businessman yet? Or?
I'm a small business, but I also am I'm a homesteader.
A homesteader, yes. There you go, homesteader. Yes, thank you. Let's start with the weather, as we usually do. It's 65 degrees outside now, and it's raining in the Cheongguk area. And we're only going to get up to, wait a second, it's 65 now, and the high for today is 64. How's that going to work?
You mean the weatherman's not always right?
We're already breaking through.
I think you're always right, but I don't know about the weatherman.
So anyway, it's going to be a cool day. And it's interesting to me how, if the temperature is anywhere above the average, all of a sudden the media's screaming about global warming and stuff like that. But in August, we had a pretty cool month. It was right cool, wasn't it?
We didn't have any heat waves, really.
Right. Yeah. In fact, it was probably warmer in April and May than it was in August, I think, probably.
Yeah.
But anyway, August was a very cool month. I don't see anybody clamoring about the lack of global warming or
that's the inconvenient truth.
That's the inconvenient truth.
Right.
Yes. Anyways, we're having a kind of October. I think this is October weather, beginning of October weather that we're having right now. We had a couple of about 3 days of warmer weather, more normal weather, and maybe slightly above normal weather. But that was because of Harvey was passing through and bringing up all that tropical air. We didn't have any rain except for a bit of drizzle. Actually, it's probably raining harder today than it was then over the weekend when Harvey was coming through. And tomorrow we're looking at 71, and then also similar temperatures for the next few days. So we're continuing in that warmer air, or I'm saying in that cooler air. Yeah, it's 71 tomorrow, and then Friday 68, Saturday 67, Sunday 71. So we're going to continue in this vein for the next several days, it looks like. Friday, it looks like we'll have a little passing shower. I want to talk about the very dangerous and large hurricane, Irma, that's coming through. The most recent advisory from the National Hurricane Center is that it has a sustained winds at 185 miles an hour and movement to west-northwest at 16 miles per hour. It's a good idea to keep a look at the speed because as it speeds up, hurricanes become weaker. When they slow down, then they're picking up more and more energy from the warm water, and so they become stronger. And this seems to be a little bit faster, a couple miles faster than it was a couple of days ago.
Yeah, it was 14, right?
It was 14, yeah, and it was 15, I think, yesterday, and now it's 16. So that's a little bit of a good sign. But now I see that the cone of uncertainty is now the 5 days out, 2 a.m. Monday is now sitting right above Lake Okeechobee in Florida. So it's predicting like I say, it's a cone of uncertainty, so we don't know where in that cone it's going to be. But the center of that cone is now at 2 a.m. Monday is on right above Lake Okeechobee in Florida. So it's the cone of uncertainty is moving more and more to the right, to the north, and more and more straightening out. So it looks like it could start coming up the East Coast.
They're not talking about it moving into the Gulf of Mexico?
That's also possible, because the cone of uncertainty also includes that possibility. But the trend seems to be veering to the right, to the north and to the east. So we'll have to watch out and see what's going on there. Now, of course, with these kinds of natural disasters, there's also a political danger. Political danger. That some people get ideas that this is a time when government has to take control.
Come in and save the day.
Come in and save the day is one way of putting it. But did you see where the governor of the Virgin Islands signed an order giving the National Guard a power to confiscate guns and ammunition prior to the coming? You know, you might say, well, that sounds like fake news, but it's not. It was reported on Fox, and it was reported on a number of other sites as well. And the NRA has come out and says, we're going to fight this. And they say that there was a similar, NRA says that there was a similar situation some years ago, which they successfully challenged in court. And actually, according to the NRA, the Congress actually passed a law making sure that governors cannot do this. And President Bush signed that into law. And yet, we have today this situation in the Virgin Islands where the governor is saying, oh, time to give up your guns, hurricane's coming. But it is actually, of course, in times of crises when in fact, that's why we have guns, right? Isn't that why we have guns in the first place? So now that we need them, we're supposed to give them up. Let me read you the statement put out by the NRA, the National Rifle Association. Bringing it up here, I posted it on my Facebook page. The National Rifle Association on Tuesday announced its strong opposition to the order signed by U.S. Virgin Islands Governor Kenneth Mapp, allowing the government to seize personal firearms and ammunition ahead of Hurricane Irma. The NRA is prepared to engage the legal system to halt the unconstitutional order. Quote, people need the ability to protect themselves during times of national disaster, unquote. Sounds right. Said Chris W. Cox, Executive Director, National Rifle Association Institute for Legislative Action. Quote, this dangerous order violates the constitutional rights of law-abiding citizens and puts their lives at risk, unquote. After Hurricane Katrina, New Orleans Mayor Ray Nagin instituted a similar order and began confiscating legally owned and possessed firearms. The NRA intervened in federal court and was able to halt the confiscations and obtain an order requiring the return of the seized firearms. The organization then backed federal legislation to prohibit the confiscation of legal firearms from law-abiding citizens during states of emergency. In 2006, President George W. Bush signed this legislation into law.
Oh, Bush did have some legacy of protecting firearms.
Quote, when 911 is non-existent and law enforcement personnel are overwhelmed with search and rescue missions and other emergency duties, law-abiding American citizens must be able to protect their families and loved ones. The NRA is prepared to pursue legal action to halt Governor Mapp's dangerous and unconstitutional order, unquote, concluded Cox.
Very good.
But it's really disturbing that the New Orleans mayor did this and he was stopped, and a law is passed to make sure that it doesn't happen again. The president signed that law, and yet the governor of the Virgin Islands just goes ahead and does this anyway. What's going on here?
Yeah.
Because when the hurricane is coming, people are sort of I guess there's a tendency to let the government do whatever it wants in this kind of
It's a very vulnerable time. Homes
Yes.
are abandoned, shops are abandoned, looting
Yes.
increases exponentially. And if you don't have the ability to protect yourself, you're literally just at the mercy of criminals.
Right. Who don't give up their guns.
Who don't give them up, right?
Yes.
They're not
Gun? What
law-abiding. Right. Actually, if you're a law-abiding citizen, you keep your guns.
Yes.
That's crazy.
So this is one thing that Hurricane Irma is causing already, which is a source of concern. And let's watch and see how the NRA effort on that proceeds and see whether they are able to stop it. I certainly hope that they are.
It shows what a valuable organization the NRA is.
Yes.
They are one of the strongest lobbying groups in Washington.
Yes.
And they really depend upon their member support, to do the things that they do, which
Yes.
really protects all of us.
Yes.
These kind of laws, these kind of challenges in court, as we know, become quite expensive. And it's important that we support the NRA and like-minded organizations.
Yes. There's a reason why they exist, because there are always people who want to use.
I bet you those are Democratic politicians.
Let me look that up just a minute, just before we go to
I'd
break.
be surprised if that was a Republican
Virgin
governor.
Yeah, Islands governor. Let's see. a three-term senator, served as a lieutenant governor of the United States. Independent candidate for the government of the U.S. in 2002, but was defeated by Kenneth Mapp. 29th governor. He is registered Republican.
Really? Wow. Amazing. We'll have to research this a little bit more.
But ran as an independent. Here's the problem. Education. Here's the problem. Harvard University.
He's not a true Republican.
Anyway, it says his party is an independent politician. So anyway, I guess he's I don't know if you'd even call him a rhino. I don't think he even deserves the title of rhino. He's left of rhinos. Yeah, okay, well, let's take a break and we'll come back and start going through the news from a Chattanooga perspective.
Car Arms, Magnum Research, and Auto Ordnance. The Car Firearms Group, with a diverse product line that blends American craftsmanship with cutting-edge technology. It's no secret why gun enthusiasts choose Car Firearms Group. From the Desert Eagle and Baby Desert Eagle made famous by Hollywood, the history of the 1911 and the Tommy gun, to the best in compact concealed carry. Car Firearms Group is not only the first name in personal defense, it's a name that has earned the respect of gun enthusiasts around the world. Concealment, innovative technology, value, accuracy, and history. Car Firearms Group, made in the USA. Visit car.com today.
Welcome back to the King's Report for Wednesday. I keep trying to say Saturday again. This is a habit of mine. Wednesday, September 6th, 2017. This is the day before Thursday, September 7th, which will be the anniversary of our True Father's Cosmic Ascension and the second anniversary of Chattanooga. And so there will be no King's Report tomorrow.
Correct, yeah.
And the next King's Report after today will be on Friday morning. And I had my REMA all open here, and I was so incensed by this so-called registered Republican governor of Virgin Islands, who has signed an order confiscating, telling the National Guard that they can go out and confiscate people's guns. He actually did that. Even though, anyway, let's not go into that again, because I already got sidetracked on that once. But anyway, somehow the REMA skipped my mind. So anyway, we're going to go back here and do the REMA. I'm in the book of Mark this morning, Gospel of Mark, chapter 11, the first 10 verses. And when they came nigh to Jerusalem, unto Bethpage and Bethany at the Mount of Olives, he sendeth forth two of his disciples. I actually went to the Mount of Olives when our Father crowned Jesus. I was able to be there. And I went there a second time as well. And it was during the Intifada, so that there were no tourists. And there were no lines. I guess when other times you go there, I've never been there when there were actually crowds of tourists. I only went there during the Intifada, second Intifada I think it was, and I could go anywhere and just sit and meditate on the Mount of Olives. There's a chapel there on the Mount of Olives. I've forgotten who operates it. One of the Christian orders operates it. There's a chapel there where you can look out, sit there in the pew and look out through the window beyond the, you're sitting in the pew, and in the front of the chapel there's a window, and you can look out on the city of Jerusalem and the Golden Dome through that window. And I just sat there for a while just meditating. That was a wonderful experience, the Mount of Olives.
When did Father crown Jesus?
I'm not so good at dates
Okay.
anymore.
Well, Father didn't crown too many people.
No, but he crowned Jesus in Jerusalem and then again in Washington. Yeah. So. Anyway, and when they came nigh unto Jerusalem, unto Bethpage and Bethany at the Mount of Olives, he sendeth forth two of his disciples, and saith unto them, Go your way into the village over against you, and as soon as ye be entered into it, ye shall find a colt tied whereon never man sat. Loose him and bring him. And if any man say unto you, Why do ye this? Say ye that the Lord hath need of him, and straightway he will send him hither. And they went their way, and found the colt tied by the door without, in a place where two ways met, and they loose him. And certain of them that stood there said unto them, What do ye, loosing the colt? And they said unto them, Even as Jesus had commanded, and they let them go. And they brought the colt to Jesus, and cast their garments on him, and he sat upon him. And many spread their garments in the way, and others cut down branches off the trees, and strawed them in the way. And they that went before, and they that followed, cried, saying, Hosanna, blessed is he that cometh in the name of the Lord. Blessed be the kingdom of our father David, that cometh in the name of the Lord. Hosanna in the highest. There's our Bible Rima, and then also the Chonsongyong Rima. Where are we? Okay. I'm in Book 2, on True Parents, Chapter 4, The Mission of True Parents, and I'm on page 210. Is that right? Yes, 210. Section 1, The Position of True Parents. The world has passed through many eras, the eras of imperialism, emperors, and kingdoms, and after they passed, came the children's era of democracy and the servants' era of communism. Because these eras were not governed by the law of love, we can conclude they were products of a false world. The original world was to come into being as the extension of an original heart. Then there must be an original person. But where is that original person? It should be understood that the term person here includes both man and woman. Since this is certainly a satanic world, history has been pursuing an original man in this world. That is why billions of people in the world today are looking for a leader who can guide not only a true world, but also heaven and earth. Then how does an original leader come about? He comes transcending fallen individuals, families, tribes, peoples, and nations, even the world itself. What kind of person is he? He is a true person. What kind of a true person? I am asking for the definition of a true person. It is simple. He is the one who has perfect love. Then what is perfect love? And who is able to love perfectly? This also is simple. It is true parents. And recently I've begun to correct almost all of our translations, true parents, as the true parent. And I'll explain that in a bit here. Who is God? God is the representative true person. Have I gone too far? I think I have. In more concrete terms, I had this picked out here. Yeah, okay, I've gone too far. All right, I've already gone past the section in the Korean Chonsong that I had picked out. So let me explain again, and I think I explained this once before, but again, because I think there was some complaint, wasn't there, in the last events Hundok material that true parents was given in the singular?
In the singular, yeah.
Yeah. What was the complaint? Can you?
Just that there was some kind of mistranslation.
Mistranslation. I love that. Go ahead. Yes. I have a peeve. I have a peeve.
Share with us your peeve, Tim.
This may be a rant. If people are serious about studying Lutheran theology, they study medieval German. Mm-hmm. You can see where I'm going, right?
Yes. I've heard this rant before.
You've heard this rant before. If people are serious about studying, what? Catholic theology, mm-hmm. they study Latin. If people are serious about studying the New Testament or studying the Bible, they study Hebrew and ancient Greek. Mm-hmm. If people are serious about studying Buddhism, they study Sanskrit. And unificationists think that they can be serious about studying Father's words without studying Korean. I know some people are changing. You know, I give credit to Carrie Williams especially. She's very serious about studying Father's words, and she is a person who you know, makes a great deal of effort to go back to the original and to look at the Korean original and to chase down me and others who can help her to understand the original Korean. But they're still pretty few and far between. And so,
From what I remember, Father ranted quite a bit on this topic.
yes, he did, didn't he?
You're in good company.
So I'm in good company. So, you know, I find it, I don't know what to say, but people arguing about Father said this and Father said, I actually made a proposal to Mike Jenkins when he was, you know, before Father Songhua, when he was president of the U.S. Church. I wrote him an email making him, giving him a suggestion, which was actually a good suggestion. And I said, there should be a rule. There should be a rule that anyone who cannot understand Father in Korean, you know, whether you cannot read it or you cannot understand his spoken word or whatever, anyone who cannot understand Father in Korean is banned from starting a sentence
Father said.
with the words, Father said. You don't know what Father said. All you know is what some translator tells you that Father said. And of course, Father said everyone should learn Korean. And frankly, I think Korean leaders discourage that because, you know, if people learn Korean, then it becomes more difficult for them to be controlled.
Right.
Look at me. They couldn't control me. And part of the reason is, because I, you know, all right, you know, yes, true, you know, I benefited from a tremendous blessing from God, and God put me in a position basically where I had to learn Korean. And I also had some foundation in Japanese, which helped me learn Korean. But think about it. Think about it. If the God of love, all right, is going to transmit his truth into a human language, which language is he going to pick? Is he going to pick, for example, if God had expressed his language in Thai, you know, in the Thai language, you know, with all these lines going all every which way, what would we have done? Or if God had, in Chinese, you know, if we have had to learn 10,000 Chinese characters, for example, I don't know how many thousands. I really think you have to learn about 10,000 in order to really be fluent in Chinese, I think. Well, maybe the communists, of course, have simplified a lot of the Chinese characters, but Father prefers the original characters. But if we had to learn 10,000 Chinese characters in order to read the Divine Principle, for example, think about that, or to, you know, in the original language, or in Arabic, you know, that, you know, one reason Muslims often don't know their own religion is because it's written in such a difficult language. They have difficulty reading it. But he chose King Sejong, bless his heart, had this idea that there should be an alphabet that everyone can understand, everyone can learn. And, you know, in his decree establishing the Hangul alphabet, he said that, you know, everyone should be able to write, to be able to you know, to make, especially for petitions to the king or whatever. Everyone should be able to write it. And so the way they did it was that he appointed a committee of people, and they got together and they brought in a common person and told them to pronounce certain words, you know, and then they took the shape of the mouth and sort of used that shape to kind of to express some of the consonants and vowels, and they came up with an alphabet, which, listen carefully to the next three words, anyone can learn. I promise you, anyone can learn it. I will say this, and I will challenge anyone to prove me wrong. Anyone with at least average intelligence can learn the Korean alphabet in half a day. I promise you that that is true. And I challenge anyone to prove me wrong. Focus on it for half a day, and you can learn it. It was created so that anyone can learn it. All right? And it's not like English where you have, silent vowels and E's at the end that are pronounced or not pronounced, and how B-O-W and B-O-U-G-H are pronounced the same and anything like that. So it's a lot easier. It's pronounced exactly how it's spelled. What could be simpler than that?
No excuses.
No excuses. I'll turn off the music. I'm not finished yet. So all you have to do is learn the alphabet, all right? And then these characters, these things start to make sense, because then the letters are put together in a different way, all right? So English, you line the letters up just horizontally, right? Okay, Korean is a little bit different. You create, they're kind of like building blocks, instead of like if I were to say, if I were to have a word like a church, for example, right? The word church has a consonant sound in the beginning, a vowel sound in the middle, and a consonant sound at the end, right? And in C-H-U-R-C-H in English is just lined up horizontally. All right, well, Korean is a different idea. Instead, you put them as a building block. So you would have, for example, the CH here, and then next to that you would have the UR, and then underneath you would have the CH, the second CH, the end of this. And that would be pronounced church. All right, but that's not, once you understand that, that's not difficult to figure out. All right, so you often have a consonant and a vowel, and sometimes one or more consonants at the bottom, and you read it from left to right and top to bottom. That's not difficult, right? That's not difficult. Once you understand it, get used to it. So then you can open up a book like this. Open up a book like this, and you see a bunch of these consonants and vowels put together like that. Some of them have just one consonant, one vowel. And then sometimes the vowel is on the side, and sometimes it's down below. But that's you can figure that out. You can figure that out. So then you learn a little bit of grammar. And then after that, you get yourself a dictionary, and you go to war. You just start figuring it out, all right? And then eventually you start seeing words, and with enough work, then eventually the fog begins to clear. But the first step, learning the alphabet, is easy. Anyone can do it. Anyone can learn. Anyone with at least average intelligence can learn the Korean alphabet in half a day.
I think his father knew that people would start translating it differently, and he knew that people would try to redact, and he knew that people would misuse his words, so he was so adamant about us learning it.
But also, not being able to, it is a question of control as well. I think Father came to liberate us and to give us complete freedom. And part of that is to be able to go to Father's words in the original. Yeah. Because if you can't, then you're always going to be exposed to the possibility that someone can control you. Someone can come along and say, look, well, I read the original and this is what it says. And what are you going to say against that? Right. Right. If I go along and say, hey, Father said Tim Elder is king, who's going to argue against me? In the world of the blind, the person with one eye open is king. So you better open your eyes. You better open your eyes. Anyway, that was not the point of today's Rima. Or maybe it was the point, I don't know. Maybe that is the reason that I went beyond. Actually, if I had stopped where I stopped in Korean, I would have not gotten to that. So anyway, we were talking about why I'm translating now 참부모 in the singular. Well, one of the things that we learned in Reverend Yu's OSTP is that 참부모 is the official name given by God to Reverend Moon. This is what Father says, and it's in the collected sermons of Father's collected sermons. And he said that, and so I checked it out, and sure enough, it's there. It's there. Father says that Champumo is the official name given by God to Reverend Moon. And so I started thinking about this and started reading it and taking off the S of True Parents. And sure enough, it makes a lot more sense. And it actually gives you a very different perspective. And I began to realize that, and this example is one that I've been thinking about a lot recently, but I don't know if it's, I kind of caution people, this is only mine, because this is not Father's example. But I think of it as, beginning to think of True Parents as a relationship between True Parents is kind of like the relationship between the sun and the moon. Where the moon by itself is just a rock. It's dead, it has nothing, it may have some minerals, I'm sure it does have some minerals, but we wouldn't be writing poems and songs about the moon if it weren't giving us light. But that light doesn't come from the moon itself. Mm-hmm. The only reason that the moon can give us light and be, romantic and everything like that is because it's reflecting the light. It's in a position, it's in a position where it can reflect the light that is coming from the sun. Mm-hmm. It reflects the sun's light to us. So that light that we're seeing from the moon is actually light that originates in the sun. Mm-hmm. And I think the True Mother position is also kind of similar like that. I think the True Mother, I think by putting the S on True Parents, I think we encouraged a cult of Hakchahan. And I think that is the personality cult that we see today in the Family Federation.
Yeah.
Mother's fall is her responsibility and everything like that. But aside from that, we also, or I in the past, and many people in the Federation still today suffered and then today suffer from the cult of Hakchahan. We treated her as if she was equal in accomplishment, that True Parents did this. No, the True Parents did not do that. The True Parent did that. Mm-hmm. The True Parent did that. The True Parent meaning True Father. Mm-hmm. And when you start looking at that, you realize, okay, the True Mother, Father is in the position of God, and so there is both Mother and Father in him. And she is reflecting to us the Mother that is in Father, that is in True Father, that is in the True Parent. She's reflecting to us the Mother. Anyway, that's my example. It makes it easier for me to understand. Maybe it helps others understand as well. Pray about it. Those are not Father's words. Those are my words. So pray about that. So anyway, that is why I am now in almost all cases, and you'll find this in tomorrow's reading as well. I'm translating. I'm correcting the translation of Champumo as the True Parent instead of in the singular rather than in the plural as we've been doing it. Mm-hmm. And I think you'll see in tomorrow's passage as well that if this were plural, it would mean that it would be implying that the Mother is equal in accomplishment to Father. Mm-hmm. And I think that is definitely not the case. I think that is probably one of the reasons why many people that find it so difficult to get out of the Family Federation, because they've fallen into this personality cult of Hakchahan. Mm-hmm. Anyway, that was not the original point that I was going to make with this Rima today. And by the way, the English translation of the Cheonsonggyong is not the be-all and the end-all, all right? This is not the King James Version. The King James Version was created over a 7-year period, where King James gathered together the highest scholars in England and biblical scholars and everything like that, and they created a work that has stood the test of time, and it is in fact even considered one of the classical works of the English language. They really did a tremendous job, not only in the translation, but in the English language, the English expression. They did a tremendous job over a 7-year period. Cheonsonggyong was not translated over a 7-year period. And it was not translated by the highest and most learned scholars of our time either. It was translated kind of on the fly. I had a very, very small part in this because I was involved in another project and I couldn't do a lot of work on it. I think I translated a very small part of the book on True God, and I don't even remember what part it was. But many of the people who were involved in this project, you know, I remember talking with Julian Gray about this. Julian was head of this project, or at least or one of the people who was the leaders of the project. And he has also expressed concern to me about how the people who were doing the translation were often young in the faith and were not necessarily the best educated in English language. And also, you know, I know that I know some of the people who did the editing of the English, and they were very good people. They were good people. But the English translation of the Cheonseonggyeong is by no means the be-all and the end-all. That is why I always, you know, when I do a Rima from the English Cheonseonggyeong, I always have the Korean Cheonseonggyeong by my side, and I'm always checking that. And whenever we present a Hundok material at a holy day, I'm always going through this. I spent time doing this yesterday. I spent several hours doing this. It's going to be a short one because we have some other stuff going on tomorrow. But I spent many hours checking the English Cheonseonggyeong against the Korean original and changing the translation where necessary according to my judgment. All right, because I'm the one-eyed guy who's the king in the world of the blind. You guys, until you open your eyes, I'm the king. So just, I'm not accepting any complaints from people who don't know 10 words of Korean, all right? If you want to criticize my translation, learn Korean first.
I have to have a conversation with you in Korean.
Yes.
So the original Korean version is singular?
So this is the point.
Yeah.
In Korean, there is no singular and plural. All right?
Okay.
So it could be either way. So we have to figure out what is it? Is it singular or is it plural? And until now, it has been translated as plural. And that makes sense because cham means true, pu is father, and mo is mother, so true, father, mother. So that sort of sounds like there are two people involved, right? And it was always kind of awkward, though, to say that, you know, true parents did this, true parents did that. Well, obviously it was father who did that. It was kind of awkward. And then we come along and Reverend Yu pointed out, he didn't make this up. He pointed out to us where in father's words, it says that Champumo is the name given to Reverend Moon by God. The official name, the official title, the official name, he said, Kongshi Irum, he said name. The official name given to Reverend Moon by God, Champumo. So there is both father and mother in Reverend Moon, according to God. And in the example that I gave, I think that the person who is in the true mother's position, and just like the moon, you know, it can't be off wandering on it cannot become a sun on its own.
Right.
If it starts saying, "Hey, I've got light. All that light, it was coming from me." You know, I'm gonna, now that you know the sun can go away because I'm going to continue to shine on you. It doesn't work like that, does it?
It's just a dark rock in
just
the
a dark
universe.
rock. It's just a dead rock floating out there in space.
Right.
It just happens to be in the perfect position to reflect,
yeah.
light.
Yeah, that's
to
a good
reflect the
analogy.
light to us. That's how I think, and I think that
There's been many examples in Cheonseonggyeong where Father talks about true parent Reverend Sun Myung Moon
yeah,
in the same sentence.
right, yeah. So that is why in most cases from now on, I'm going to be translating Changpumo in the singular. Fair warning. And if you want to object, that's fine. Yeah, you have that right. You have, people. There can be. There's only one original, but there can be many translations. Just like there are many translations of the Bible. King James, you got the Revised Standard Version, you got the what is it, the Living Life Bible or something like that. What is it called?
Yeah, there's like 20, 30 different.
20 or 30, yeah. And if you don't like the ones that are already out there, you can make your own. You can study Hebrew and Greek on your own and make your own. But you can change the translation all you want, but you don't go back into the original and rip out the Sermon on the Mount. You don't go back into the original and start adding your own words, taking out chapters. You don't do that. That you don't do. Because the original.
And who did that?
Who did that? The Han Mother did that.
The Han Mother.
The Han Mother did.
She actually altered the original text.
Yes.
And ordered the burning of the old text. Not the burning.
The actual burning, yes. Netherlands, we heard, it was
mandated.
Bob Exler. Bob Exler was telling us.
Yep.
He's originally from the Netherlands, and he told us that he was informed that in the Netherlands, the Family Federation leaders actually gathered up the Chunseongyungs and disposed of them in a dumpster or something. Yeah, or burned them or disposed them in a dumpster or something like that. Yeah, so, but anyway, I still haven't gotten to where I was supposed to go with this.
In Mark.
In Mark. So, and it's already, but anyway, let me, is God not going to let me go to where I wanted to go?
Go ahead.
So, but anyway.
Stay with the word.
The point of this, though, was that humanity is looking for a true leader. All right, that was the point of this Rima. When Jesus entered Jerusalem, people were looking for a true leader, and so they welcomed him. This was Palm Sunday. They paved the roads with their branches and cried out, "Hosanna! Blessed is he that cometh in the name of the Lord," and everything like that. Well, that was on Sunday. Of course, they killed him on Friday. When Pontius Pilate went before them and said, "I have Barabbas here and I have Jesus here, and I'll save one of them. Which one do you want me to save?" They all said, "Barabbas, save Barabbas."
How quickly public opinion can change.
Yeah, and it's because how did the people of Jerusalem? This was their last opportunity. Okay. Mary had failed, John the Baptist had failed, Zechariah had failed, the 12 disciples were not getting on board so much. They were about to desert him later in the week. Judas, of course, was about to betray him. Everything was going wrong. He had already agreed with Moses and Abraham that the only way to salvage anything at all was for him to offer himself up on the cross and at least bring about the spiritual salvation, even at the cost of the destruction of the nation of Israel. Things were not going wrong, but this was the last opportunity that the people of Israel had. And on Sunday it looked like they might even take that opportunity. They were hailing him. They were saying, "Welcome." They were welcoming him into the city. "Blessed is he that cometh in the name of the Lord. Blessed be the kingdom of our father David that cometh in the name of the Lord. Hosanna in the highest." People were shouting. So it looked like, finally, they were looking for the true leader, and it looked like they had found that. They despite everything else, that at least a good part of the citizens of Jerusalem might actually be doing that, might actually be getting on board. But they missed that opportunity in the days that followed. And as Father says in the Korean Rima, in the Chunseongyung Rima, billions of people are looking for an original person, a true leader. Does it say original person here? It says original leader. Yes, it's an original leader. With, as it says, with perfect love. But people aren't finding that. Are missing they missed their opportunity when Father was on earth, didn't they? The true leader was on earth, and what people missed. But fortunately, he was able to establish his lineage, and he is able now to work through that lineage through his son, second king Hyungjin Moon. So he was able to, in that sense, he was able to go beyond Jesus. Jesus was not able to to leave a lineage. He was not able to leave a son who was also a disciple. And that is the important thing. You know, there are, of course, rumors or extra canonical things that maybe Jesus did have a son. Even if he did have a son that wasn't his disciple. And that's the problem. So he just sort of
didn't receive a crown.
Didn't receive a crown, just disappeared into the woodwork, even if there was a son. So he's not relevant to the providence. But Hyungjinim and Kukjinim are sons who are also disciples, and they're united as Cain and Abel. And this is what is important, so that Father, as the true leader, is still able to do his work in the world. And that is why we still have that opportunity. The billions of people in the world today still have that opportunity to unite with the original leader, who is true Father, true parent, Sung Myung-moon, true parent, Sung Myung-moon, true father, mother, Sung Myung-moon. Maybe I should translate it that way. True father, mother, Sung Myung-moon. What do you think?
I think true parent's good because that's really that's right in the Cheongsang Gyeong.
Okay, yeah. True parent will be either father or mother. Champumo is father and mother. Anyway, we'll think about that.
It's interesting to note that Father crowned very few people. He crowned Jesus. He crowned his son, Hyungjin.
Yes.
I believe that's...
I think that's about all. Yes.
Yeah.
You know, the third son group, Preston's group, I think may be trying to claim that he also got a crown, but I think that's false. I think that's fake news.
Okay.
Yeah, that never happened. Yeah.
So I think that's significant. Three crownings. Father wanted to make it really clear who the line of authority was, and Preston did not receive a crown, as far as I know. I mean, it's that would be news.
I'm sure he did not.
Yeah,
I'm sure he did not.
So that's people should pay attention to that.
Yes.
That Father doesn't take crowning lightly.
Yes, that's right. Yeah. Yes.
And now we have the second king as an original leader.
Yes. All right. Wow, that was a long segment.
A good rant.
If you want to challenge my translation, you're welcome to do it. But
learn the alphabet first.
Learn the alphabet first. That's right.
Loud and clear.
Don't go telling me, it's wrong because it doesn't agree with the existing Cheongsang. That's not the way to approach it. All right, let's take a break. Let's take a break before I get started again.
Car Arms, Magnum Research, and Auto Ordnance. The Car Firearms Group. With a diverse product line that blends American craftsmanship with cutting-edge technology. It's no secret why gun enthusiasts choose Car Firearms Group. From the Desert Eagle and Baby Desert Eagle made famous by Hollywood. The history of the 1911 and the Tommy gun. To the best in compact concealed carry. Car Firearms Group is not only the first name in personal defense, it's a name that has earned the respect of gun enthusiasts around the world. Concealment, innovative technology, value, accuracy, and history. Car Firearms Group. Made in the USA. Visit car.com today.
And welcome back to the King's Report for Wednesday, September 6th, 2017. And Tim Elder sitting in for the second king of Cheongguk, Hyungjin Moon. I'm together here with Mr. Greg Knoll, homesteader and entrepreneur and businessman. While we were talking about those things, Donald Trump, our president, was busy tweeting. Just want to go through his tweets for this morning. He says, we'll be going to North Dakota today to discuss tax reform and tax cuts. We are the highest taxed nation in the world. That will change. That's good that he's going out of Washington again. Mm-hmm. I always like it when he's out of Washington.
Yeah.
He does his best.
And North Dakota is very decentralized.
Mm-hmm. And he also says in another tweet, watching hurricane closely, my team, which has done and is doing such a good job in Texas, is already in Florida. No rest for the weary. And then in a third tweet he says, hurricane looks like largest ever recorded in the Atlantic. So those are his 3 tweets for the morning. I always get concerned that maybe John Kelly may take away his phone, but apparently that hasn't happened yet. He's continuing to tweet. Although, is this really, of course his handle is a real Donald Trump, but sometimes I worry, is Ivanka tweeting in his name? Does she have his password?
Hijacking his phone.
Yeah, sometimes a little bit worried. Sometimes if the tweets are too tame, like this morning, they're kind of tame, aren't they? Mm-hmm. Is Ivanka actually doing these tweets? I don't know. I'm a little bit worried. I want to see some sharp tweets, then I'll know that, yes, it's him. He has to throw in some of those once in a while to reassure us that he's still there, still in charge of his phone, still in charge of his tweets. We talked about how the Virgin Island governor has signed an order allowing National Guard to confiscate the firearms and ammunition of private law-abiding citizens, and but that's one of the fallout that is happening from Hurricane Irma already. And Drudge, some of the headlines here: Irma makes first landfall in Caribbean islands, strongest Atlantic hurricane ever recorded. I actually, when I was in Okinawa as a child, I think I was a teenager, I experienced a hurricane with 180 mile an hour winds. And it was exciting. You just make sure that you got plywood or good boards on all your windows, because of course the most dangerous thing in those kinds of situations, that anything that's not securely bolted down is going to become a projectile. Roof shingles, any kind of a debris that might be lying around. If you have a rake or something like around in your yard, that's going to become a projectile, and it's go out, and if it hits somebody, of course it will kill them instantly, or it could go through a window if it's not boarded up. Even sometimes if it is boarded up, they may, if the wood isn't strong enough, it may go through the wood. Mm-hmm. Things like that. I was in Okinawa then, and in Okinawa, in those days anyway, many of the houses had flat roofs. Not these kinds of roofs, but flat, as because they would have typhoons every year, and sometimes quite strong. So our house also had a flat roof for that reason. And those are actually better, I think, for withstanding typhoons, because there's it was just a concrete roof. Anyway, I'm not sure how people in the Caribbean have designed their houses. Breaks weather station. Yeah, actually the one that I experienced as well. The wind velocity got up to 180, and then it broke the device that measures the wind velocity. So actually it wasn't. They couldn't tell us how strong it was after that. Pentagon diverts warships for storm relief. Line wraps around store as Floridians seek supplies. That's good. But it's kind of late. Too late. Yeah,
the
probably.
shelves are empty. It's too late.
Empty shelves everywhere is another headline. Evacuations ordered. National Guard activated. Virgin Islands seizes guns, ammo. Yep. Will Irma hit East Tennessee? That's one headline as well. She's
the time
a beast.
to prepare is when there's no disaster.
That's right. Yeah.
That's what the king has been saying.
Yeah.
Every day, go out and buy a little bit extra.
That's right.
Yeah,
Something
just $1 to $5 more. Than
he was telling the Japanese guy in Hokkaido, the gentleman in Hokkaido, every time you go out, you can buy something that will last 20 years.
Yeah.
that you can keep for 20 years. And then, let's see here. She's a beast, 185-mile-hour super winds, big fear in Florida. Like I say, the Monday 2 a.m. Cone of uncertainty forecast is for the center of that cone to be over Lake Okeechobee in Florida by Monday at 2 a.m. But we'll see how that
Of course, Florida is the
develops.
home of senior citizens.
Yes.
Large population of senior citizens, so it's a particularly big concern.
Yeah, I think probably, yeah. Yeah. People in Florida might want to, especially on the panhandle or on the peninsula part of Florida, may want to, or even in the other part, the panhandle part, maybe also. I think just that general area, get out. Get out. And there is still a possibility that we'll go into the Gulf of Mexico.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then New Orleans is not at all equipped to handle
Right.
another big storm.
Yeah, we'll have to see how it goes,
Yeah.
but it does appear to be going more and more and more to the
coastal.
north and east, but there is still a possibility that it could go into the Gulf, so I'll have to continue to watch that if you're on the Texas coast. We don't want Texas coast to be hit again. That's not completely impossible right now.
You know, the King's been talking about God is giving us warnings to awaken us to the idea of preparedness and more trouble is coming, not less trouble. So this is all part of the wake-up, the pre-wake-up call for those who have ears to hear and eyes to see. And I was thinking also that the global climate change folks want to put everything on man is doing this, whereas religion says, no, this is God's way of communicating, God's message. There's a message here to be learned. So one is man-centered and one is God-centered. So I think a lot of climate phenomena is really, God is in charge of climate. Man actually has very little to do with climate.
Yeah. Now, even the course of this hurricane is being steered by a high-pressure area that is in the Atlantic, and also there's kind of a weather trough that is approaching, and depending on how those work, then it may go this way or that way. Or, yes,
It's the hand of God.
hand of God. Yeah, hand of God.
And, frankly, it's a large part of it can be blamed, where we decide to put population centers in these high-risk areas, whether they be earthquakes or typhoons or hurricanes. We have large population centers there.
And Houston, all right. A couple of brothers, all right, go to a place in Texas where they see a bayou, and they say this would be a great place for a city that has 4 million people.
Right,
Some
below
of
sea
these
level.
cities-
Below sea level.
Yeah, some of these cities. I mean, when I was, in Seattle, for example, I once stood there and I looked up, because Seattle has some pretty steep hills.
Yeah.
And I wonder, who was it that came here 100 years ago and stood at the bottom of this cliff and said, this would be a great place for a city? I mean, San Francisco, the same way.
Yeah.
Some of these cities, obviously the people who established them had no idea how much they would develop or how they would develop.
Yeah. But it's kind of it's really blaming God for man's stupidity.
Yes.
People blame God for these natural disasters and the death toll and everything
Yes.
like that. But
Yes,
really,
yes,
it's a lot of it has to do with
Yes.
our own decision making.
Yes.
Freedom and responsibility.
Yes. Then we say it's global warming.
Yeah.
But but also there's another storm brewing, and that's the possibility, a very real possibility of war on the Korean Peninsula. During the Korean broadcast this morning, we covered a story in the Korean press about how Vladimir Putin had a meeting with the South Korean President Moon Jae-in, and they got into an argument. Yeah. Putin was expressing some frustration, and it said the Korean paper said using some words that are not necessarily used in diplomatic places. Moon Jae-in was saying to Putin, please shut down your oil exports to North Korea, and Putin was saying, it's only 40,000 tons a year. It's not going to make any difference. And it's going to affect civilians. It's going to affect the hospitals, and it's not going to do anything to stop the war. And Moon Jae-in was saying, well, remember how back when we were having six-party talks, we were having trouble getting North Korea to the table. But then China shut off the oil, and then immediately North Korea came to the table. So maybe something like that will work in this time. And Putin was just, I think he just felt like, the South Korean president was just completely divorced from reality. Now, I think, my feeling is that Putin, among the leaders of the nations that surround the Korean Peninsula, North Korea, I think Putin may have the best information. The reason is that I think some of the Russians are actually helping them. Here there's an article.
When I was in Russia for over the course of 3 or 4 years, there was a huge amount of diplomats from North Korea and civilians. So I think the relationship between Russia and North Korea goes way back.
Oh yeah, it does.
And it has an incredible amount of intelligence about the situation, the real situation in North Korea.
There's an article here in a paper about the mastermind behind the North Korean, but you know what? They want me to do some shopping before they'll let me see the article. They want me to buy a swimsuit. Look at this. All right. No, we're not going to. All right. So apparently we're not going to learn about the mastermind today. But it says China fears radioactive fallout from North Korea blast. Beijing steps up monitoring along its borders after Pyongyang's latest nuclear test. Beijing is amping up monitoring for signs of radioactive fallout. This is in the Wall Street Journal this morning. From North Korea's latest nuclear test, concerned that contamination could provoke a public outcry and force Beijing to harden its approach to Pyongyang. Diplomats and analysts say Beijing put an extensive radiation monitoring network on emergency level of operation Sunday after sensors detected a 6.3 magnitude tremor from North Korea's sixth and largest nuclear test. Minutes later, they registered a second, smaller tremor, possibly caused by a structural collapse. In other words, they think that maybe the tunnel that was dug to do the underground test may have collapsed. Yeah,
we have no idea the human casualties involved in all that.
No, we don't. Only God knows. Nuclear and seismological experts say that underground atomic blasts can cause tunnels to collapse or terrain to shift, potentially allowing. Oops, went down too far there. Potentially allowing radiation to vent into the atmosphere. So that's the danger. Chinese government agency said no radiation has been detected thus far, but they will continue to test air, water, and soil samples in a network of radiation monitoring stations that has steadily expanded since 2013 and is due to grow by at least 2 more stations in the next few months. Whereas China now is getting ready to have its 19th Congress of the Communist Party, which is kind of the most important gathering, I guess, over a 5-year period. Because, and again, we were reading a Korean article on that earlier this morning, because Xi Jinping is trying to put himself on a level with Mao Zedong and Deng Xiaoping, and to write himself or his thought or his ideology, his principles into the charter of the Communist Party, which is equivalent to the Constitution of China. And of course, he has rivals. Jiang Zemin, the 2 presidents prior to him, is his rival, and he's involved in a power struggle with Jiang Zemin. And Jiang Zemin his name is not in the party charter. And so if Xi Jinping succeeds, he'll be elevating himself above Jiang Zemin, which Jiang apparently does not appreciate. And so there's this struggle going on. So just like in America, in a year when there is a presidential election, and everything that happens in politics is somehow related to the presidential election. So right now, China seems to be in the same kind of a situation where everything that happens politically is related to that party Congress that's coming up in October. October 18th is when it is going to start. So here too, they don't want this kind of a trouble before that party Congress.
Right.
And so they're making sure that there's no radiation, and if there is, The slightest risk of a leak is of a huge concern, with more than 100 million people living in China's 3 northeastern provinces bordering or near North Korea. Punggye-ri test site, where the blast took place, is less than 50 miles from China's border. Yeah, that's not very far, especially if you're setting off a 100 kiloton bomb, hydrogen bomb. Nuclear blasts produce radioactive forms of elements such as iodine, exposure to which can cause cancer in humans or even death in extreme cases. Sunday's test shook buildings in Chinese cities near the border and could be felt hundreds of miles away. Some people ran into the streets and posted videos of shaking chandeliers in their apartments. Others have since taken to social media to express alarm. A key concern for Chinese leaders, according to diplomats and analysts, is that any environmental contamination could quickly turn into a political problem, with people demanding that Beijing hold Pyongyang accountable as its biggest investor, trade partner, and aid donor. Yeah, they're not afraid of Trump, but their own people? That's another matter. If it turns out that there is fallout and some leaking that threatens northeastern China, it will likely change China's stance, says Zhu Feng, an international security expert at China's Nanjing University. It would need to tell people that it will keep North Korea under check. Chinese authoritarian leaders are sensitive to public opinion and wary of anything that could provoke protests, dent the image of the Communist Party, or otherwise diminish their power. Such sensitivities are especially high with China's leadership heading into a key political meeting next month to shuffle top portfolios, and with the government under pressure from the U.S. to bring North Korea to heel. China has never publicly reported contamination from North Korean nuclear testing. In private, Chinese officials have expressed increasing concern about the environmental impact, according to diplomats and analysts. After a meeting in 2013, then South Korean President Park Geun-hye said that Chinese Premier Lee Keqiang told her that Pyongyang's test that year contaminated the Yalu River that forms the border with China, according to a South Korean presidential spokesperson. China's foreign and environmental ministries didn't respond to requests for comment on that conversation. North Korea's state-controlled news agency said on Sunday that the test didn't result in leaking of radioactive materials and had no adverse impact on the surrounding ecological environment. Daily notices from China's Nuclear Safety Environmental Agency said no traces of radiation have been detected. Japanese nuclear regulators also said on Tuesday radiation sensing aircraft found no abnormal readings over the Sea of Japan, just east of the Korean Peninsula.
And we can always trust what comes out of the Chinese government.
Oh, yes, of course.
Do you know China is one of the largest polluters in the world?
Yes.
And every single river is now polluted. Their factories spew out toxins.
Right.
That
which then get blown over the Yellow Sea and onto the Korean
Peninsula.
Peninsula.
Yellow dust, yeah. So China is this model nation of the world that the UN is propping up, doesn't have a really good scorecard on the environment.
Right. Pyongyang performs its nuclear tests in solid rock beneath a steep mountain. The depth of the blast would make a large radiation leak unlikely, even if there were a cave-in, said Stephen Gibbons, a seismologist at Norwegian Geological Monitoring Agency NORSAR, who specializes in nuclear testing. There's a lot of mountain to go before you reach air, said Mr. Gibbons. It will likely take days or weeks before radiation from the test is detected, if at all. He said, so you have to keep testing, because it could come through seep through the rock.
Yeah. How far down was the test? Does this
if this guy knows, if Steve Gibbons knows, he's not telling the Wall Street Journal. I don't see anything here.
Can't imagine it being more than a mile down. I
mean, more than a mile.
That's quite significant, right?
That would be that would be quite deep.
Quite a feat.
Yeah.
It'd be interesting to know.
Yeah. So anyway, that's not the whole article. You can check it out for yourself. Let's take a break now, and we'll come back with more news from a Chonic perspective.
Car Arms, Magnum Research, and Auto Ordnance. The Car Firearms Group. With a diverse product line that blends American craftsmanship with cutting-edge technology. It's no secret why gun enthusiasts choose Carr Firearms Group. From the Desert Eagle and Baby Desert Eagle made famous by Hollywood, the history of the 1911 and the Tommy gun, to the best in compact concealed carry, Carr Firearms Group is not only the first name in personal defense, it's a name that has earned the respect of gun enthusiasts around the world. Concealment, innovative technology, value, accuracy, and history. Carr Firearms Group. Made in the USA. Visit carr.com today. Carr Arms, Magnum Research, and Auto Ordnance. The Carr Firearms Group. With a diverse product line that blends American craftsmanship with cutting-edge technology. It's no secret why gun enthusiasts choose Carr Firearms Group. From the Desert Eagle and Baby Desert Eagle made famous by Hollywood, the history of the 1911 and the Tommy gun, to the best in compact concealed carry, Carr Firearms Group is not only the first name in personal defense, it's a name that has earned the respect of gun enthusiasts around the world. Concealment, innovative technology, value, accuracy, and history. Carr Firearms Group. Made in the USA. Visit carr.com today.
Little hands, shoeless feet, lonely eyes looking back at me. Will we leave behind the innocent?
And welcome back to the King's Report for Wednesday, September 6th, 2017, 8th year of Chungi, 7th month and 16th day. And we're looking, early in the broadcast, we were looking at the hurricane in the Atlantic, and now we're looking at the military hurricane on the Korean Peninsula.
The tsunami of military activity, yeah.
China's military practices for surprise attack overseas near Korea. This is Reuters article of Beijing. China's Air Force has carried out exercises near the Korean Peninsula, practicing to defend against a surprise attack coming over the sea, Chinese state media reported. An anti-aircraft defense battalion carried out the exercises early on Tuesday near the Bohai Sea, the innermost gulf of the Yellow Sea that separates China from the peninsula, an official military website, www.81.cn, reported. Troops traveled to the site from central China before immediately beginning drills to fend off the surprise attack, simulating real battle, it said. The troops' rapid response capabilities and actual combat levels have been effectively tested, it said. It was the first time certain weapons, which it did not identify, had been used to shoot down low-altitude targets coming over the sea, www.81.cn said without elaborating. China's defense ministry did not immediately respond to a faxed request for comment. The exercise came days after North Korea carried out its sixth and largest nuclear test of an advanced hydrogen bomb. Advanced? I don't know, advanced. Come on, Reuters. Why you put that in there? Advancing, maybe, or advanced more than it was before, but advanced? Anyway, hydrogen bomb, and there is mounting concern internationally that the country plans more weapons tests, possibly of a long-range missile. After weeks of rising tension, South Korea and the United States have been discussing the deployment of aircraft carriers and strategic bombers to the Korean Peninsula. China is deeply suspicious of any U.S.-backed military buildup in the region and has repeatedly expressed anger at the deployment of a U.S. anti-missile defense system in South Korea. As I was reading that article in the Korean press about Putin and Moon Jae-in having this, went on for 2 hours and 40 minutes. This heated exchange of words. I'm realizing that Putin is actually scared. He's actually worried, and he's frustrated. Putin was telling the South Koreans, "Listen, there is no military solution to this. You gotta. This has to be resolved somehow peacefully through dialogue." Of course, dialogue hasn't worked so far. So, yes, there's no military solution, as also Steve Bannon has said. But yes, dialogue has not worked and probably will not work. So where does that leave us? I think it leaves us just praying to Father, frankly. Yeah. I think, one of the ladies who's here, who lives in the southern part of Korean Peninsula, said that when she left, she prepared her apartment so that it could be used by refugees during her absence here, in case a war breaks out just during the few days that she's here. She put the key in a place where people can find it, things like that. Other sanctuary members can find it. So it's really serious. But she was also telling us that the general population in Korea is just oblivious to this. Oh no, there's not going to be a war. There's not going to be a war.
He's just playing his games like he always does.
Yeah. But Putin is scared. Yeah. Putin is, I think, is really. I sense in the articles. You have to read between the lines of the articles, and as I read between the lines of these articles, I get the feeling that he is genuinely concerned.
The king really has been bringing up the point recently that it was only through Father's blood sacrifice that created a hedge of protection over the Korean Peninsula and the whole Pacific Rim. Now that the desecration and the violation of our true Father has happened in such a severe way, that hedge of protection is no longer there. So nobody wants war. Everybody wants to avoid war, but the problem is that Satan really does like death and destruction, and Satan now has a claim, a legitimate claim over certain areas.
We hope that there is some way that war can be avoided, or at least that the casualties can be minimized, so that the figure 8 million has been given by one military expert in the United States. That would include North and South Korea, and possible victims of a North Korean missile strike in Japan and or the United States. Altogether, talking about 8 million civilian and military. And Putin yesterday was warning, in an article that we covered yesterday anyway, was warning of a planetary disaster, I think he called it. So people who are in the know, people who have information, are genuinely worried. I would even say afraid, but realizing that there's a tremendous limit to what they can do. President Trump has talked about cutting off trade. The United States may cut off trade with any country that does business with North Korea. Okay, think about that. That means cutting off trade with China, cutting off trade with South Korea, and Russia, Southeast Asian countries, cutting off trade with China itself.
That would be devastating.
Yeah, goodbye Walmart.
Yeah. Well, goodbye Wall Street. It would be huge.
Yes.
Unthinkable.
So it's not a very practical. It's
empty threat.
It is an empty threat. And if he were, even if he were to do it, Congress would step in.
Yeah.
So it's not a very realistic thing, and I think probably the Chinese realize this. But I don't know, maybe just trying to shake their tree a little bit before their upcoming Congress of the Communist Party. I don't know what he's trying to do.
Seems like China has very little influence over North Korea these days, or less and
Well,
less.
that's what they say. But, you know, Steve Bannon, in an interview with the New York Times on Sunday, it was published Sunday, says that the North Korean problem is 100% a Chinese problem.
Mm-hmm.
And I think not 100%, but at least 97%, I would say. Yeah, China, after all, is probably most responsible for getting North Korea started and helping them to pursue their ambitions in the nuclear and missile fields. Providing the financing, providing the parts. Even North Korea now says that they can produce their own parts. But it's certainly at some point in the past that was not true, and China was providing parts. You know, they did this because, causing trouble with the United States and East Asia, that's pretty good. Yeah. Ha, 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 ha. Well, now they brought us where we
A
are.
little beast has grown up.
Yes, their little beast has grown up. Yep.
And Russia's also been supporting that effort,
Yes.
and Iran as well. So you have the evil axis all
Yes.
supporting this little beastly child
Yes,
that is
yes.
now a teenager.
And now we are with basically, a teenager with a gun in his hand,
Yeah.
Hmm?
A big gun.
a big gun. And
Now, what do you do if you do nothing? This teenager eventually becomes a nasty criminal adult,
Yes.
a gang member that causes havoc throughout the
Yeah.
world.
who was it? Yesterday I saw the headline on Breitbart that strategic patience has become strategic blackmail.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's true.
Hmm.
Now, if they had dealt with the child with this bad habit
Mm-hmm.
early on, then it never would have developed.
Mhm.
But
Mhm.
that's what the king's been saying, too. In
Mhm.
Chung Il-guk, these kind of criminals are dealt with swiftly
Hmm.
before they have a chance to accumulate power. And that's unfortunately what's happening in North Korea, is that he's accumulated power now,
Hmm.
the power to destroy.
We have very little time remaining, but I just want to identify that story with the strategic blackmail. See who was saying that. Gaffney. Oh, okay. Well, Gaffney is a dyed-in-the-wool neocon. But anyway, well, if he's right, he's right.
Yeah, occasionally they have good ideas.
Frank Gaffney, yeah. Okay, well, yeah, and but I think what is father want out of this? You can turn off the music. I'll quit in just a minute. Kissinger says, let's give up the idea of unifying the peninsula, and let China, just tell China, hey, if you take care of this problem, you can have the northern half. We don't care. We're going to give up the idea of one Korea. That's what Kissinger says.
Mm-hmm.
Bolton says, John Bolton, the former UN ambassador, says, let's unite Korea centering on Seoul.
China will never have that.
Well, to which I think the king was commenting yesterday, I think off camera, what difference does it make? There's a communist government
Yeah,
in
right,
Seoul as
right,
well.
right.
But I mentioned that to Reverend Lee just now. He says, well, still, we have the root of free democracy.
It hasn't been a democracy that long.
It has not been a democracy that long.
The root is not that strong.
But what Father wants, though, is a unified peninsula.
Yes.
He's not going to go with Kissinger. He's not going to go with Kissinger and say, okay, let's give up the idea of a unified Korean peninsula in return for peace. I don't think Father will go with that kind of peace at any cost. Mm-hmm. Even though Father says that God hates nothing more than war. That's what he said when Bush was about to go and attack Iraq. Mm-hmm. But Father does, I think, want a unified Korean peninsula. And whether it's by military means or by peaceful means, right now, peaceful means look very, very difficult. Maybe just like Jesus riding into Jerusalem, hoping that the people of Jerusalem would unite with him even at that last moment. But there are those of us, contrary to the Jesus time, there is a remnant who are united with the Father and his lineage. And if we can unite with whatever condition Father asks of us in the coming days and weeks and months, whatever condition he may ask of us, then perhaps that will form the foundation, the basis for Father to be able to work his miracle. That's my final thought this morning. Do you have anything?
No, Father's in charge of the spirit world, and I think Father has a huge impact on worldly events. So whether goodness can prevail is how much we unite with Father.
Okay, yes. All right, thank you for joining us this morning. We've come to the end of this morning's broadcast. The King will be giving the Korean service later on this morning. And tomorrow morning is a holy day, so there will be no King's Report. And you can join the King again 5 a.m. Friday morning from the Cheonryung Palace, 5 a.m. to 8 a.m. Thank you very much. God bless, Godspeed, and may his kingdom come.
Adieu.